Break
Got
up.
this. Hello, hello. I think this is working. Welcome to 2020. I am of a certain age. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Wait, are we doing it?
I don't see anything on here. There it is.
I see live. Here we go. I think we got it.
I only see Leonard. Lionel. Sorry, Leonard.
Okay, here we go. Now I think we got it. Hopefully we can edit this out later. Welcome everybody to Storytelling 101 Graduation Class Show. Thank you so much. My name is John Flynn. It has been my honor to be the teacher of these wonderful students over the last 8 or so weeks. We got together during this wonderful, easygoing time in history to work on stories that we've crafted for your delight here today. And hopefully this is working. It's a great, fun, exciting time. So great. So enough of my brilliant opening hosting bits. So we're going to get the show started. We've got a lot of great storytellers. So please welcome your very first storyteller this afternoon. Give it up for Joe Della Pina, everybody.
Hey. All right. I died on New Year's Day, 2018. On that day, I was viciously dumped by the guy of my dreams. I was so into him. I thought he was gorgeous, soulful, staggeringly talented. He was a guitarist, and he could do anything. He could sound like Prince or Slash or John Mayer. Once, he sang the Beatles' Something to me out in the desert under the stars. But he just wasn't into me anymore, not even a little bit. And on that New Year's Day, he told me that not only did he not want to date me anymore, he didn't even want to be friends, nor hear from me ever again. It was cruel, but let's give the guy points for not playing games. I was already pushing 50, still single, and this felt like I'd totally blown my last chance. I died that day, convinced that I would never be desirable to anyone ever again. Like Julia Louis-Dreyfus in the famous sketch with Amy Schumer, I had reached my last fuckable day. I spent 2018 plodding along in a deep fog. I muddled through work and classes and business trips, feeling like a just warmed up corpse who was just fulfilling their humanly duties. But before I knew it, the whole year had passed, and I didn't want to continue the slog into 2019. I needed something to kickstart me back to my old self. And I thought maybe I found that something in Paul McCartney. In January, he announced his 2019 world tour. And I decided, yes, this is what I need. I'm going to go to some far off land and I'm going to watch him sing Beatles songs and I will be reborn. I should pause here to mention that I'm completely obsessed with the Beatles. To me, they're absolutely everything. They're my religion. And I consider all of us very lucky to be alive when Paul is too and still out there touring. So you should be grateful. And this felt to me like this was the medicine that I was craving. So I chose his Buenos Aires tour stop for my pilgrimage. I muddled through 16 hours uneventfully in the air. But just as we started to descend, I started to feel kind of sick. And by the time we went through customs, I was completely doubled over in pain. It took me forever to get to my hotel, but when I got there, my room wasn't ready. So I threw up in the lobby bathroom 14 times. There is nothing like puking your guts out to make you feel attractive and desirable again. I laid in bed for about 36 hours before I felt good enough to go out. And I was still sore and bloated from all the puking. So I went to a street festival and I bought a jumper from an Argentine seamstress that I think can best be described as an adult onesie. It was super comfortable, but I looked like a shapeless blob in it. So 2 more days go by and it's time for the concert. It was absolutely insane. There were 60,000 people crammed onto a polo field. It was hot, it was dusty, and I just felt gross in my blobby onesie. But I was glad to be here because this was supposed to help me stop being a zombie. So when the music started, I immediately burst into tears. I couldn't help myself. Music always makes me emotional, and this was like the pinnacle of my musical experience. I noticed a really cute Argentine guy standing nearby. He had the typical long, shaggy, dark hair that so many of those guys have. He had dark eyes and long eyelashes. But I thought, okay, I'm a blob. So I can't even look at this guy. He glanced at me, but I turned my head. I didn't want him to see me blubbering. I was, crying throughout the show. I kept crying. I cried when Paul sang something. I cried again when he showed a video with John Lennon. By the time the show was over, I was completely spent. I felt some joy. I did, but I wouldn't go so far to say that I'd been risen from the dead. I was shuffling out of the polo field along with everybody else, and I felt a tap on my back, and I turned to find it was the cute Argentine guy. We stopped and looked at each other. His English wasn't great. He said, "You cry a lot." I said, "Yeah, I guess I do. I really love Paul." He stared at me for a minute, and then he said, "You very pretty." I thought this guy was out of his mind. I mean, I'm sweaty, I'm blobby, I'm old, I'm wearing a onesie. I still felt flush from being bedridden for days. I said, "Oh, well, okay, thank you." He paused again, and then he said one little word. "Kiss? Kiss? Kiss! This hot guy, probably 20 years younger than me, wants to kiss me? Is he insane? Is he a creep? Is he gonna try to steal my wallet? Wait, why am I arguing with myself? This is my chance. This is my chance to make a comeback. Maybe this means I'm not dead. Maybe this means I am still desirable. Maybe I'm not an old lump. Maybe I am fuckable. One thing at a time, okay? One thing at a time. I looked at him right in his glistening dark eyes. Kiss? Fuck yeah, random Argentine dude. Fuck yeah. And scene.
Thank you. Give it up for Joe, everybody. Yes. Fuck yeah, indeed. Let that be the lesson for everyone to take away this holiday weekend. Thank you one more time for give it up for Joe, everybody. All right, and then keep it going for your next storyteller. Give it up for Mr. Lionel Sam.
So in my family, I've always been the reliable, Zen-like emotion member of my family. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember my Aunt Trudy was babysitting me, and she was going through a divorce with my Uncle Arthur. And she would talk to me about her marital problems, and somehow with some old soul, I'd give her some advice, and it would help calm her nerves. I remember when I was in high school, my cousin Jason, he came to me to borrow money. He needed to borrow $600, and I had that set aside, and I let him hold on to it. So I've always been that character in my family. Now, last year was a very precarious, unusual year for me. It started when my agent at the time, my acting agent, he started stealing money from me and all the clients. And it came out and it was in deadline. There was a class action lawsuit. It was a huge blow. Now, and I had been booking work with him. So it was a personal attack and just, it was something I had never experienced. A month after that, my biological father passed away on his birthday. A week after that, the love of my life, my girlfriend at the time, broke up with me. And I was devastated, to say the least. So a couple days after my girlfriend breaks up with me, I have to now fly to Seattle to go to my father's funeral. Now at the funeral, obviously I'm not in the best shape emotionally, and I just wasn't feeling great for many reasons. So when we're there, I have a couple of half brothers from my dad, because he had, children with other women. So the pastor opens up the mic and one of my half brothers gets up and he decides to say some kind words. As soon as he gets up there, I see my mom start looking at me like, boy, you need to get up there. She doesn't say anything, but the eyes tell me, you need to get up there. And I'm just kind of like, nah, I'm like, no. So then my other half brother gets up there and I see her now, she's really like, well, you better get up there. You've been taking all them damn acting classes and you done been on a commercial. You better get up there and make us look good in front of everybody. So reluctantly, after my second half brother speaks, I decide to get up there And to my surprise, I crushed it. I mean, I killed it. No pun intended. But I had a really good speech, everybody. And family was coming up to me afterwards and they was like, yo, man, you did your thing. Wow. Like, it was so nice to hear those kind words about your father. And I never looked at it from that point of view. It was a great speech. And I felt good about it. My mom felt good. I felt good. Now, fast forward 2 months later, another tragedy strikes and my grandfather passes away. Now, when my grandfather passes away, this hits everybody in the family really hard. He was undisputedly the patriarch of our family. He was a war vet. He put out 4 blues albums. He wrote 2 books, and probably his proudest accomplishment was being married to my grandmother for over 70 years. I mean, they had 7 kids. I don't know how many grandkids and great grandkids. So it hit everybody. People came to the funeral. The funeral was in Texas. They came from all over the country. It was at TD Jake's church. It was a big deal. And up until that day, for the most part, everything had been normal for the day of a funeral. Lots of love and support from my grandma. Until we're riding in the funeral procession, I was fine. And my cousins, everyone, were talking. My cousin Jason's driving, and we're talking about the legacy of my grandparents. And all of a sudden, this Sam Smith song, "Stay with me, why don't you stay with me?" Now, the song is about a one-night stand, but for some reason, those "stay with me" words hit, and I start sobbing. Jason, turn it down. Jason's driving. What? I can't. And finally, he turns the radio down. I'm crying for the next 2 hours. Okay, so we're in the funeral, and we do the viewing. My Aunt Trudy is literally passing out, like, oh, oh. My Aunt Teresa's passing out. People are holding them up, and I'm just crying, quiet but crying. And eventually the pastor opens it up and he says, if anyone would like to say any nice words, now's your chance. My Aunt Trudy, who couldn't even stand, grabs the mic and delivers the most amazing serum. And I'm like, weren't you just passed out? A couple more people speak. And now I see my mom again giving me that look. She's like, boy, you better get up there. She's not saying anything, but she's giving me the eyes. So I say, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna get up there. I'm gonna do my thing again. I'm in my suit, walk up. This is TD Jake's church. Get up to the podium, grab the mic, I look around. I find my grandma. I lock eyes with her, give her the nod. I'm like, Grandma, it's gonna be okay. I just want to start off by saying thank you. And Grandpa, and the tears, the words weren't even coming out of my mouth that much. I mean, really, it was more just like a lot of crying and an open mouth. And eventually I look up and everyone's just face is like, WTF did we just witness? And then there's a confused, slow, unenthusiastic clap, and I walk back to my seat with my tail between my legs and I sit down. And I didn't pull through that day because I was so affected and I wasn't the one that my family could lean on. But guess what? My family was there for me, and everybody gave me so much love and support, and I've never felt more whole than in that moment. Thank you.
Give it up for Lionel, everybody. Very nice, very nice. Lovely, lovely. All right, let's keep the show going and give it up for your next storyteller. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Keaton Mehta. Keaton, everybody.
Nice. Wow. I didn't do my background. So let me tell you, I may look like an easy-go-lucky guy, but I'm not easy to live with. Leave aside to love with. I have so many weaknesses and faults. Like, for example, I can never remember any important dates in my life. like my sister's birthday. I'm never on time. I never bring flowers for my wonderful wife, Amy. I never arrange a romantic dinner out, just the two of us. I never surprise him. Never, never, never. And sometimes I wonder, after all these years of married life and with all these weaknesses, does Amy still love me? Does she really love me after all this? Amy is my high school sweetheart. We grew up together in Mumbai, India. We came together here on a student visa. We both have a graduate degree in chemical engineering from LSU, and she loves music, and I love music, and we both love hiking. And people tell us, it's unusual that the two partners have so many things in common. But I still wonder whether she loves me. So this wonderful evening in June, Amy and I were on our usual evening walk on the golf course, and Amy says, "Chi, that's my pet name." When she says "Chi," that means she still loves me. Okay? She says, "Chi, do you remember an important date this month?" And I'm like, I know all my Zoom meetings I have this month and all the other things I had to accomplish in the month, but I'm stretching my imagination. What could it be? And she says, I knew it. I knew it. You forgot our 40th marriage anniversary. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen, I want you to plan a romantic day out for us, okay? And I'm like, hey, consider it done. And I'm thinking like, maybe a day out to Newport Beach on a speedboat, which she loves, or maybe a day out in Temecula, the wine country. So many options. Let me tell you, the very next day, I got into my routine and forgot about the whole conversation completely. Wednesday, June the 25th rolls in, and Amy comes to me and says, G, yes, sweetheart, have you arranged the day for us for tomorrow? And I'm like, oh my God, I had completely forgotten that I had to arrange a romantic day out. She says, I knew it. I knew it. So listen, I have arranged a day for us, and I want you to follow the plan, okay? And don't be late. No, done. Well, the plan was to have a leisurely afternoon in Laguna Beach, maybe a late lunch, some art galleries, a cafe, go to some boutiques, and maybe I buy her a dress. But end up in Ritz-Carlton in Dana Point before the sunset. Okay, have our cocktail in our hand and overlook the Pacific Ocean and that sun setting and those vibrant colors in the sky and look in each other's eyes and say, I love you. Forget about that Hollywood scene. By the time I was done with the meetings, because I had forgotten the day, I couldn't postpone most of my meetings. We had to forget about Laguna Beach. By the time we reached Ritz, the sun had already set. The colors were still up there. They're just a little darker. I mean, I can still see those waves breaking on the shore. And I was hopelessly hoping that the evening can be saved. We got seated in the dining hall overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and we had ordered our cocktail, and I was trying to get in the mood, and a live band was playing in the back, and the singer starts, wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. And I'm like, in love. Yes, I'm in love, Hayden. And suddenly I got woken up by, are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? I'm talking to you. I planned the whole day for us, and you even forgot the plan. You could not do anything. I don't mean anything to you. Yes, Amy, remember that this is just Tuesday. This is the celebration start, and we're gonna take it through the weekend. Come on, we're gonna enjoy. No, no, no. Today was the day. You never remember any date. You never bring flowers for me. You never surprise me. Never. For the next 30 minutes, I heard all the weaknesses and faults I've had in the last 40 years of married life. And this side, this romantic music playing, and then this side, another kind of romantic music playing. And suddenly I realized, I'm like, Hayden, you know, you've been a bad boy. You don't bring flowers for her. Everything she's saying is correct. You don't surprise her. And suddenly epiphany. I'm like, yes, Hayden, if you care for all the loved ones you have in your life and celebrate all the events, your life will be celebrated. Wow, Hayden, epiphany. Well, it's been several months since that educational evening for me, and you would say, Hayden, have you changed now? I'll be lying if I say I have completely changed. I'm working on it. 40 years of baggage. Like, the other day, I brought 2 dozen flowers for her. Roses, from Costco. Uh, it didn't fly because she said, well, it wasn't delivered by a third party and it wasn't in a vase. So now I have to work on a delivery part, so I'm working on it. And let me tell you, she knows I'm working on it and she likes that because just yesterday she called me. See, that means she loves me and I can't help falling in love with her. Thank you.
All right. Give it up for Kate and everybody. Going with the high note at the end of the song. Very nice. Very brave. Very nice. All righty. Speaking of brave and nice, give it up for your next storyteller. Give it up for Mr. Doc Farrow, everybody.
Okay, so it's March 2009. I'm living in Palm Springs. I have the most paying job I've ever had in my entire life. I'm in the nursing program so that when I finish graduating, I'm going to make even twice as much as that. I'm living in a huge apartment, bigger than I've ever. Point that I make the decision to change all my focus from the nursing school and go into acting because I watched a doubleheader special with Dave Chappelle and Larry the Cable Guy on Comedy Central. And I thought in my mind, yeah, I could do that. I'm about to give up a potential mid-six-figure income to go be a comedian, in which in most cases, to say be a comedian is usually a euphemism for being an unemployed funny guy that's homeless. But I'm feeling this. I'm drawn to this. I don't know why it is, but I'm drawn to this. I looked at him and I said, I can do this. So I'm planning what it looks like for the next year, saving up money. I look at the Academy of Dramatic Arts because Cleavon Little went there, Dan DeVito went there, Dennis Haber, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I could just save up money for a year. So I'm gonna head on out there. And I've got it all set up. 2 days later, got fired from my job. And because of a clerical error, I wouldn't be able to get unemployment benefits for 6 months, not even appeal for unemployment benefits for 6 months. So I guess I won't be saving money after all. But now I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I know what I'm feeling. And right now I'm feeling that I don't give a fuck because I've got a motorcycle, I've got $2,000, and I got this feeling that that's where I'm supposed to be. Next thing I know, I'm in Koreatown, Los Angeles, California, in an apartment about this big, and I'm sitting there remembering just a short time before when I had space to dream and maybe iron clothes and eat. Now I live in a matchbox. But I'm still feeling this where I'm supposed to be. I also got accepted in the Academy of Dramatic Arts, and I've got about 6 months between the time that I got there to the time that school starts that I've got to make it. And that's all I got to do is just make it through 6 months. And I can be there. The VA benefits will kick in. I'll be fine. 3 months later, I'm broke. 2 months behind on rent. No food really to speak of. But I just got a job at Home Depot Center, being a vendor and selling pop candy and shit for 2 days for minimum wage, because that's all that I had. That's all that I could get. I'm working. All I got to do is make it 3 months. 2 days later, I got laid off from that job because I guess paying minimum wage is to everybody. So I have another interview for another job coming up that all I need to do is make it for 3 more months. And I got this job interview and I'm feeling like this is the one. I get on my motorcycle. That's all I got. I got enough gas to get to this other job interview. I get on my bike and I just keep talking to myself. All I need is something for 3 months. All I need is something for 3 months. I got a job interview coming up and I'm feeling good about it. It's going to happen. It's going to make it over. And I'm riding down the street and I get to La Brea and Beverly Boulevard. And I'm like, oh, I just need to get this 3 months. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't this the intersection that Shia LaBeouf got into an accident? Boom! Flip, 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 flip through the air. Plop. Somebody decided to take my right away. But what they left me with was a broken foot, a pinched nerve in my back, and a sprained hip. And I'm sitting in the ER. And I'm sending out Facebook messages with pictures to, at that time I had 50 followers. It was the beginning of Facebook for me. And I just start crying. And this nurse is like, what? It's going to be okay. It's just going to be okay. And I look up and through tears, I smile at her. And I said, I already know. Okay. When I got into that accident, number one, I was able to total out my bike. And in a week, I had enough money to pay rent and food for the next 3 months. And because Home Depot Center had fired me, I was able to get unemployment benefits all the way back to the job that I had in Palm Springs. I don't have to know what I'm doing. It was at that moment I realized I don't have to know what I'm doing. I don't have to know what's right or wrong. I just have to know what I feel. And I felt it every step of the way. And I stepped into the Academy of Dramatic Arts hobbling on one foot. And I started my studies. And since then, I've been doing stand-up. I've been on TV shows. And I just feel like the next thing is the next thing. And I just step into the next thing that I feel is supposed to happen. That's what I learned. That's how I'm keeping to live my life. It's it. See?
All right, get it for Doc, everybody. Very nice. Dun, dun, dun. I was not ready. Hold on. One more time for Doc, everybody. Great job. Wonderful, wonderful. All right. And now, keep it going for your final storyteller this afternoon. Give it up for Mr. Nat Townsend, everybody.
Hello, thank you everyone for watching this. So 6th grade was really rough for me. It didn't make sense that I was the kid who everyone picked on. I was like the smallest boy, I was the youngest, and I had the highest grades. So plus I could do a bunch of yo-yo tricks. Why didn't anyone like me? Why was I so unpopular? Doesn't make any sense. So my classmates all seemed to resent me for these things about me that weren't my fault, except for arguably the yo-yo, which was a choice. But otherwise, it was just who I was. Like I wanted to be one of these kids who gave each other pounds as they passed each other in the hallway, who like excited to see each other. And I was so smart, but I couldn't figure out how to get other people to like me. And I tried getting into other people's interests. Like I joined the volleyball team because I'd taken volleyball classes over the summer at summer camp, and I thought that I was good at volleyball. But it turns out that everyone else was better than me at volleyball because their bodies were larger. And it didn't matter that I knew about the 6'2" formation. The boys in my class all started to get into skateboarding. But when I bought a skateboard, they all called me the deadliest insult in 1992, a poser. A poser. They were all posing off of each other. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't get it. So I decided I'm just going to be myself for a while. I know more other people's interests. I'm just going to do my own thing. And I'm going to use that to trick people into liking me. And finally, luckily, like for me, an opportunity presented itself a couple of weeks later. See, in French class, we were assigned to do a report on a famous French artist, write a paper, and then create a complimentary presentation or performance or piece of art about that artist or in the style of that artist. Because I went to this progressive elementary school where it's like art is connected to history and history is connected to literature and science is occasionally mentioned. And so I knew this project was my chance to impress everyone. And sure, like volleyball and skateboarding had failed to make me popular, but those were other people's interests. And this was schoolwork, which was my strong suit, and it was creative. So it felt like, for me, it was the chance to show off the real me. And I enlisted my mom's help with the project, and we worked on it for weeks. I was certain it was going to be a hit. I imagined my classmates like begrudgingly applauding when I finished, just like, that was good. And my teacher just like shaking her head, like, oh la la, like très bien, Nathaniel, très bien, like very, that's very good in French, very good. But and finally the day of the presentation came, and I sat there with my little biography printed out. And my friend Nick got up and he told us about the painter Toulouse-Lautrec. And he had painted a little tiny canvas in the style of Toulouse-Lautrec, and he put it on the chalkboard. And we all looked at it and we went, huh. And my teacher said, okay, who's next? And she brought up the next student. This little British girl named Jemima got up. She told us about Monet and how she loved the water lilies. And for her project, she created a timeline of Monet's life on a piece of foam core. She put it up on the chalkboard. And we all looked at it and we went, huh, for a couple of seconds. And my teacher said, okay, who's next? And then it was my turn. It was my moment to shine. And I handed my teacher my CD, and I told her to cue up track 4. And then I went into the middle of the cleared classroom and took my opening position, crouching in a ball. And as I looked down on the carpet full of pencil shavings, and was ready to begin my performance. Because you see, the artist I had chosen was the French sculptor Auguste Rodin, who was very famous for his sculpture, The Thinker, the guy going like this. Except I didn't pick the Thinker. I picked the 6 burgers of Calais. I'm sure you guys all know that story from French history. During the end of the 100 Years' War, when the British had choked off the city of Calais and they were starving, and then the 6 leaders, the bourgeois of the town, came out and offered their lives in exchange that the town be spared. And of course, Rodin's famous sculpture shows the 6 of them, as I'm sure you know, leaving Calais, each expressing like a different emotion of regret or determination. And I had decided to perform the project I was working on. I had decided I was going to do an abstract avant-garde movement piece in which I moved from one sculpture to the position of the next sculpture, dramatically embodying each of the 6 burgers of Calais in this dramatic moment in French history. And as I would move to each position, like contorting my body, hold on. There we go. Contorting my body from like one shape to the other and like turn it into this other sculpture. When I froze in the position of each figure in the sculpture, I would loudly say the emotion that figure was meant to express. So I'd be turning and I'd end up in this contorted pose. And I'd look back and I'd be like, regret. And then I would move on to the other position. And now I had set this piece to Gustav Holst's to Mars, Bringer of War from Gustav Holst's, you guys know it, the neoclassical symphony, The Planets, right? I'm sure you all know this. And as I'm sure you know, as experts, The Planets, Mars, Bringer of War from The Planets is 7 minutes and 40 seconds long, which means that I had over 1 full minute to move from one position in the classroom to the next sculpture position. So I would contort and emote and just move so slowly. And finally it ended and I found myself in my final position like this. And there was a dead silence in the room. And I held that position dramatically for several seconds longer than was appropriate. And finally I looked up to a room and I was ready for the applause and the tears of the crowd. And I opened my eyes, because of course they were closed for dramatic purposes. And I saw a classroom dead silent, as I had hoped. But the only tears were people yawning. Most of my class members looked blank. Some of them were stifling a laugh. Some of them had stopped paying attention midway through. I wouldn't know. My eyes were closed for a lot of it. And I just kind of held that position. And my teacher waited a beat and then just emotionlessly said, "Okay, merci. Who's next?" And for the next few weeks, I heard people whisper about me as I passed by them in the hall. They didn't give me pounds. I just kind of could tell that I had become notorious, and I would overhear people and I would go, "Ah, regrets." And I didn't get popular. I never figured out how to get popular. I just decided that if this didn't work, if I was going to be unpopular, no matter what happened, I might as well just keep being myself. And then someday, eventually, many years later, I found some people who were interested in being friends with that.
All right, give it up for Nat, everybody. And give it up one more time for all of our storytellers. Give it up one more time. And thank you all so much for tuning in this afternoon. Really appreciate it. We teach classes if you want. I'm sure there's links you can go to check all that out. But thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope you guys have a safe and wonderful